Hey guys, it's your old pal Tony Giles TG here, welcoming you back once again into the record room. And on this episode, I wanted to do a mini focus or shine a spotlight on one of my favorite UK-based labels, Spun Out of Control. Now, if you've been watching the record room and you've been listening to my podcasts or my previous podcasts, you'll know that I'm a big fan of the label Spun Out of Control. It does seem to me sometimes that the guy that runs the label, Gavin, has the key to my heart when it comes to new music, because I genuinely, since day one, have been a fan of literally every release, and it's not often I can say that about a label. So I don't know what he's doing, but whatever it is, I hope it does not stop. His recent batch of releases, though, have been so good, and I'm talking, I've got 4 here. I think all 4 will be in my top 20, if not my top 10 of 2020. That's how good they are. And I've got 2 cassettes, 2 records. The cassettes are Where the Dark Speaks by Rupert Lally and Blair, Maryland by Andy Fosbury. And the 2 records are Proto Droids, Cybernetic World, and the wonderful, and I say wonderful with a capital W, Nevergrand, Things We Should Fear. This record right here, this record, I love this record. On so many levels do I love this record. But I'll tell you a little bit more and we'll get into how they look. Okay guys, so let's get into it. Some of the recent releases from Spun Out of Control. And I'll start with the cassettes actually, because I've been spinning these a lot. And in fact, I've just bought a new cassette deck on eBay, because the one I've got still works, but it's hooked up to my stereo, and I want to hook up a cassette deck to my kind of DJ setup or my turntable setup, so I can actually make some analog cassette mixes. But let's talk about this one first. This is Where the Dark Speaks by Rupert Lally. And this is essentially music that's an homage to dark places from Stephen King novels. Stephen King bases a lot of, if not all of his stories in Maine, I believe, where he's from. And like, I'm a huge fan of Stephen King stories, I am. And the scores, not always the greatest to the films that are released for them, but Where the Dark Speaks, this is freaking terrifying. This is something to behold. So there you go. I'll fold out the card there. And the artwork on this, once again, Eric Adrian Lee, our old chum, he does all the artwork for Spun Out of Control releases, and I absolutely love that. You do get a fold out J card, and on the inside there's some information for you guys to check out. And the cassette version I have here, this is on Tommy Knocker Green. How cool is that? I love this. It's a green shell with the prints actually on the cassette. So that is very neat indeed. And if this is sold out, which I think it is on the Spun Out of Control Bandcamp page, fear not, because you can still support and you can still listen digitally, which is something I recommend each and every person do. And the second cassette here is Blair, Maryland. I'm getting kind of a bit of a glare because these cassette shells are so shiny, or cassette cases I should say. Now, Blair, Maryland, that might sound kind of familiar to you if you are a horror fan. Blair, Maryland is of course where the Blair Witch is set. And this is by Andy Fosbury. And what you get here essentially is 2 albums. And look at that, look at that. That's a double-sided shell, my friends. Red on one side, black on the other. The A side is an imagined score for Blair Witch Project, which is atmospheric, it's creepy, it's wonderful. I love this. I listened to this on Halloween several times. It's so good. You flip the cassette over, and what you have here is the synth extensions. And essentially what this is Andy has reimagined his own score as a 70s, 80s synth, I don't know, extravaganza, whatever you want to call it. It's fantastic. So it's the A side, as done through the 1970s, early 80s. Just absolutely genius. And again, the artwork on this is just brilliant. It's a fold-out J card. There is some information there if you really want to read it, and you can zoom in. You can pause your video and take a look. You do get this nice, eerie, yeah, that's just creepy. That is just creepy artwork on the inside there. But again, my lights are bouncing off this because it is so shiny and looks so good. If you're a fan of the horror stuff, the things that go bump in the night, the darker material that Spun Out of Control release, these are two cassettes that I would recommend to each and everybody out there. They are nothing but superb. And quite possibly the two cassettes I've been listening to most recently. I can't pick a favorite. They are both fantastic. And if they are both sold out at source, hit up Spun online, because he always knows who might have some stock lurking around. But trust me, these are two that you need in your collection, as are the two records I'm about to show you. Proto-Droids, Cybernetic World. Now, looking at this, I looked at the cover for a bit when I first saw it go up, and I thought, what does that sound like? What does that, I mean, the cover looks fantastic. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Metropolis, you know? And I think that's probably maybe what, you know, Eric was going for when he created this. But the OB on the front, a joyous rush of Italo disco meets body popping 80s electro. And once again, that pretty much does sum up what's on the record, kind of. This record is insanely good. It's like if you took all the fun elements of the Stranger Things score and put them on this one really kick-ass record, that's what you would get. The first track, Pleasure Mode, this could be easily on the score for Stranger Things Season 3. The disc is this really badass splatter, and it feels quite thick as well. It's quite a thick disc. I'm almost positive this one is still available, and it baffles me as to why this is still available, because it's so freaking good. If you haven't picked this one up yet and you have a passion or a love for synth, like if you're a fan of Giorgio Moroder or what Daft Punk did on their last album, Random Access Memories, if you like the instrumentation on that record, get this. Seriously, this is so freaking good. And as always, you can check it out on Bandcamp first if you need to, but I guarantee by the end of the first track, you'll be hitting that buy button quick. Don't miss out on this. This is a TG recommendation from the heart. If you like the 80s electro synth pop stuff, Proto-Droids, trust me. This is, like I say, this is an early Christmas gift from me to you. Get this record. You will not be disappointed. And last but not least, I'm going to talk about Nevergrand. Now, Nevergrand, this came out a little while ago, actually. I didn't get this when this first came out. Gavin hooked me up with this a little while after its release. And I hadn't seen many people talking about it online. And, you know, I don't pay much attention to that. However, I was intrigued because I'd heard that this was a departure from the regular Spun Out of Control, Spun Out Sounds kind of catalogue. So that piques my interest because, as I've said before, Gavin really does kind of, he has the lock, or he has the key rather to the lock around my music taste. And so I thought, well, you know, I'm intrigued to hear what this is like. And straight up, I did not know there were vocals on this album. So I expected an electronic album of some kind with no vocals. So imagine my surprise when I'm sitting there, I'm sitting in the record room, enjoying the Nevergrand LP, all of a sudden this incredible voice comes out of nowhere. Completely blows me away. It sounds like a mix between early Michael Jackson and, I don't know. The voice is so familiar. It's like hearing nostalgia today. It's like hearing a voice you're already familiar with, but you don't know that you're familiar with it. It's so bonkers. I'm probably doing a terrible job of describing it, but things we should fear. This album is incredibly, incredibly good. I cannot say enough good words about this record. I have asked Gavin if this is still available. He's told me this is. If you don't just want to take a blind buy off of my raving about how good this is, fair enough. Check it out online first, listen to some samples. But this is just, if you like R&B, soul, pop, electronic, jazz in places, it defies kind of categorization. It is just so good. And Nevergrand is actually somebody that has released before on Spun Out of Control. Jan Bora, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce your last name, Jan, so I do apologize. Featuring Steve Kashala, and I believe Steve is the vocalist. And let me just say this, his voice is phenomenally good. Like, I could listen to this guy read the telephone book or sing the telephone book. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Of all the records I could recommend to you recently, this would be the one right here. And as you can see, the cover there is pretty interesting. And the disc itself, well, it doesn't get much better than that. It matches, it literally matches up perfectly. It really does. I realise I've got that upside down, but there you go. Well, actually, no, you can have it either way. But there you go, the disc matches the cover, which I love it. I absolutely love it. I love this record so much. If you, like me, grew up listening to Michael Jackson, Prince, George Michael, 80s pop, 90s pop, a bit of everything, I buy this record. That's what I want to say to you. But, you know, I'm a gentleman. I'm not going to force my opinion on you. But I will say this. I love this so much. I'd recommend this to each and every person I know. You can check out some samples online, and I urge you to do so ASAP. Halfway to Berlin is just toe-tappingly, you know, I'm driving in the car, I'm thumping the steering wheel. It's so good. I've calmed myself down. I think I need to go and spin this record ASAP. In fact, that's what I'm going to go and do. So guys, I've given you some recommendations here. Spun Out of Control, make sure you're following them online. You want to get the drop on this stuff ASAP. It's all limited and usually sells out instantly, so do not miss out on this stuff. And the Nevergrand LP, why this is still available is beyond me, but right that wrong, add this to your collection ASAP. Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Record Room. Stay safe out there, stay gold, and remember to always spin those blackest circles.